Okay, today's lesson is on Booleans. Uh, you guys were asking about yesterday's homework. So there's actually no co-HS assignment for variables. Uh, so we don't have any homework for yesterday. Okay, Booleans. So here is George Boole. He's English born. He's a mathematician, a philosopher, a logician, and he's considered one of the founders of computer science. Boolean logic is named after George Boole, who's instrumental in the field of symbolic logic. Basically, he made Boolean algebra. So what is a Boolean? A Boolean refers to a value that's either true or false. And while Booleans can only represent one of these two values, they're widely used to control the state of many real-world applications and scenarios. For example, we could create a variable that's called has leaves that stores a Boolean that tells us when a tree has leaves. So in late spring, summer, the variable has leaves would be tree with leaves, because it's true. And then in the colder months, has leaves would be false because it doesn't have um, any leaves. Um, Booleans can also be used to represent the switch. So when the light is on, the light is light on, Boolean is true. And when the light is off, then it's false. Booleans can be used as flags to indicate whether we should display something on screen. So an online shop might use a Boolean to keep track of whether or not an item is in stock. So when is in stock is true, the add to cart button would show up, and when it's not true, when it's sold out, then you would see this. Okay, let's explore how Booleans work in CodeChess. So you can make Booleans like any other variable. Okay, whoops. JavaScript. Okay, the main function on the main function. Okay, so we can have a Boolean for like has these, and that can equal to true, and then you can console it all like that. So notice how there's no quotations because this is a value of true. And then if you console it all lines out, you'll see it prints out true. And this could be either true or it could be false. Okay. Um, so how do we actually use this variable to control stuff in our code? Well, first, before that, we have to learn about if statements, or no, not if statements, conditional operators. Let's take a look at if statements. So, if statements work like this. There's if, a condition, and code that goes here. The condition can be a Boolean, but you also have to sometimes use Boolean operators or Boolean expressions to make up a condition by yourself. You have your keyword, your condition, or your Boolean expression, and your code body. So for example, let's say we have this variable, a Boolean variable. We can straight up use this Boolean variable in the if statement as a condition. So if is has, this just means if is has is true, because if is has is true, it's going to run this code, and if it's not, it's going to skip this code. Now, if is has was not a Boolean, if it was like a number or string, this would not work. You would need to use a Boolean operation or expression. And then yeah, if it's false, this code will not run, and you're not going to see a console.log. Okay, we can also include an else por oh my God. We can include an else portion to our if statement. So if you want something to execute if it's true, you can also include what you want to execute if it's not true, it's false. So here's your if statement condition and your code body, and then you have to add this else keyword and then another code body. So if the condition is not true, then it's going to run the else code. Okay, so we can read the if else statement like this. If a condition is true, execute this code, otherwise execute this code. And it gives us the ability to program in two options. Okay, let's expand on the previous example. So if the isHeads variable is true, then same statement will print isHeads you'll win. Otherwise, tails you lose will print. Okay, let's try this out. So we have a Boolean already for has leaves, and we have a console.log. Let's say I want to um, write down it's summertime if has leaves is true, and it's wintertime if it's false. So I can do the if statement using the if keyword, write down my condition, which is just going to be has leaves, and then write the code body. So true, one this. And then inside of here, we'll console.log. It's summertime. And then you'll see it prints out it's summertime. If we change this to false, then it will not print that. And then if we want to add an else condition, all we have to do is write else, open parentheses, and then inside of here is the code that would run if it's false. So I'll just print out it's winter. There. So since it's false, it runs it's winter. But if it's true, it runs it's summertime. Let's run this. Okay. Um, let's say I don't want to say it's summer. I want to say like um it's here. Let me put something here. Let's say I want to say the season is it's summer. I'll say the season is, and then just write summer or just write winter. So now um you see it runs this code, which only writes summer. This is the season is, it'll say the exact same um regardless of this condition. So if this is false, it'll still run the season is, but it'll only change the summer to winter. So you can do this to combine stuff that will stay the same between the two conditions, and stuff that will be different between the two conditions. And then you can do the same thing after the if else. So let's say on console.log the end, it'll log this out regardless of this condition. So if this is true, it'll still say the end. So you have to use if statements in combination with just regularly running the program. Okay, finally, let's talk about logical operators. So here are the three logical operators that you can use. There's the and, true, and, or, and not. A logical operator is a symbol or word used to connect two or more Boolean values or expressions. So here's the three most common ones, and here's how you implement them in code. The not, you just put an exclamation mark before the variable, and you use two ampersands, or you use two lines. Okay, so the not operator reverses the logical value of the Boolean value. So let's say this Boolean value is true. If you put this not in front of it, it's going to make it false. So let's just try this out. How about if not has leaves, then I want to say it's summertime. So if we run this, you'll see has leaves is true, but here I do if not has leaves. So it makes this evaluate to false. And if it's false, then it goes to this part. So let me just simplify this by saying false and saying true. So you can see we input true, but since there's a not operator here, it'll console.log out false. Okay, this is how you can implement it. You can also do this in console.logs. So since console.log is just logging out the value of this Boolean, whether it's true or false, if you put a not in front of it, it's just going to reverse it. So here it's true, but the not operator is making it false, so the console.log will output false. Okay, next we have the AND operator. It evaluates to true if both the first Boolean value and the second Boolean value are true. And it'll evaluate false otherwise. So if one of them is false, it'll be false. If second one's false, and if both of them are false, it'll still be false. Okay, here is a truth table. They show us all the possible values for our Boolean variables, and they'll show you guys the resulting values too. So you can see if x is true and y is true, then x and y will be true. Otherwise, x is true, y is false, it'll be false, and everything else will be false too. Yeah, this is the only situation where it's true. Okay, here's how you can use the AND operator. So you can see if let is adult is true, which it is, and let hastic is true, since you're using the AND operator, um, and both of these operands are true, then this statement will evaluate to true, which it does in the console.log. And then if even one of them is false, then the entire statement will be false. Okay, next let's talk about the OR operator. So the OR operator evaluates to true if at least one of its operands are true and false otherwise. This just means if the x is true, then the entire statement will be true. And if y is true, then the entire statement will be true. And if both of them are true, then the entire thing will be true also. Here you can see the truth table. The only situation where it's false is when both x and y are false, which is this bottom line here. Okay, um, here's how you can use the OR operator. You have has account, which is false, and has past purchase, which is true. If you use the OR operator, since the second operand is true, then the entire statement will be true. And only one has to be true for the entire statement to be true. And then if both of them are false, then it'll be false. Okay, here's logical operators inside of if-else statements. So we have two Booleans. We have is lightning, which is true, and is field flooded, which is false. Since we're using the OR operator here, if any of these two operands are true, then the entire statement will be true. And since is lighting is true, then the if statement, the condition is true. So it'll run the top code, which is the game is canceled. And you can see that prints that out. Now, if both of them are false, then the OR operand will evaluate to false, which means it's going to run the bottom code, which is the else. And it says play on. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's have bool 1, bool 2 equals to false. Okay, if bool 1 or bool 3, you can see here bool 1 is true, and bool 2 is false. And since at least one of them is true, which is bool 1, then the entire statement will evaluate to true, and it's going to run the top code. So there it runs true. Now we can use the and. So and both of them has to be true, or else it's going to be false. And you can see one of them is true, but since the second one is false, then the entire statement will be false. And you can see it outputs false. Okay. And then next let's use the or. So not or, I mean not. So you can see bool 1 is true and bool 2 is false. Um, if we use a not in front of bool 1, that means bool 1 is true, but the not will make it false. So you have one false and then a second false, which means that the OR operator will evaluate the false. And you can see it evaluates the false. Um, so here you can see also that bool one, it runs first because the not operator applies first to the Boolean, and then the OR operator runs. Uh, Here's another helpful thing. The AND operator, it runs before the OR operator. So it's not like it goes from left to right. It does not first, and then and then OR. You probably won't need to chain that many together. Um, okay, we have comparison operators. So this is how you compare operands on either side and decide a relation among them. So this is how you compare like integers and strings. So there's equality is 20 equal to 18. There's greater than is 20 greater than 18. Less than is 20 less than 18. Inequality is 20 not equal to 18. You can see they use the same exclamation mark because exclamation mark in code means the not basically. Is 20 greater than 18, greater than or equal to 18, and then less than or equal to 18. Okay, so here you can see the is passing variable. It's actually a Boolean because you're using one of these um, inequality operators. So when you do grade is greater than or equal to 69, then this statement will output a true if grade is more than 69 or is 69. So you can see the user enters 90, which is more than or less than 69. So then is passing is going to be true. And then you'll see console.log is true. And then 32 is less, so it's going to output false. Okay, here so you can use comparison operators in an if else scheme. So here if temp is greater than or equal to 32, then this statement will evaluate to true, and then it's going to run the top code. And then you can see since we enter into 67, then the statement evaluates to true, and then it says the top line, which is above freezing. And then if it's less than that, then the statement will be false because 28 is less than 32. And then let's say below freezing. Okay, we can also use the equality comparison operator to compare strings. So here you could say there's hello here and hello with a capital H here. This will be false because they're different strings. So let's try this out. Let's say instead of a Boolean, we have number num1 and num2. Okay, num1 is 10, num2 is 11. So we could say if num1 is greater than num2, which is not because 10 is less than 17, not more than, I mean, 11, then it's going to be false. So num1 is less than num2. If we do num1 is less than or equal to, then it'll evaluate to true if num1 is greater than 11 or equal to 11. So if it is 11, it'll be true. If it's greater than 11, it'll still be true. But if it's less than 11, then it'll be false. And then let's try strings. So let's just say string, and then second one is string difference. Then if we do num1 equals equals, that's how you use the equality operator. Then it'll be false because these are different strings. Now if it's the exact same string, then it'll be true. And again, you can use this with numbers too. So if you have number one, the number one, one is equal to one, so this is going to be true. And it'll also be true. Okay, so um, today there's not really any lessons on HT or on CodeHS that have to do with if statements. But the last exercise on the script tag, you have to use if statements for that. So you guys can now finish that one. It's like a quiz, and then if you have the correct answer, then you basically um, get like a score. Uh, Wait, are you guys able to get into the system? Because some people are saying it's still broken. Oh, okay. Okay, so that means it works because I haven't been making any because I thought it wasn't working. Okay, yeah, so I'll make day 2 and 3 and then we can I'll put the slides on that. So it's just the last one in 4.1, which is 4.1.8. Picture, yeah. Okay, and I'll make day 3 for the system. So this is the homework. 4.1.8, quick trivia, in the script tag. Oh, me? I'm in 11th. I'm going into 11th. Okay, you guys only have one exercise for homework, so this should be pretty easy, guys.